makes it tough is that there are sections of Genesis 1 through 11 that are fairly specific. Like there are genealogies, which we also that continues later on in the book of Genesis. We don't see the author of Genesis, assuming it was Moses. At least
and that is more tradition than it is evidential, because where does it claim Moses wrote it? But the oral tradition was, they called it the books of Moses.
Yeah, Jesus refers to the first 5 books as
sure, because that was,
we don't see chapter 12 opening up and suddenly the author saying, okay, now we're getting to real life, whereas before we've been at saga.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Heaven forbid myth. But I agree with you that the first 11 chapters are maybe macro, and then we get to chapter 12 and it's more micro, although there's common elements in both sections, which don't seem to, there's not a clear break indicated. No. So are you saying you don't take the first 11 chapters to be really true, that they're not trying to be true?
I do not take that. The problem is we might not be understanding the complete intention or purpose of them. Admittingly, an organization that some of our people, conservative evangelical Christians, might have a problem with, but I know for a fact that many on the board of this organization are also conservative evangelical Christians. It's a group called Biologos. N.T. Wright is on their advisory board. They have an incredibly detailed argument looking at numerology in the ancient Near East and Mesopotamia, and how there are 30 people whose ages we are given, that are 900 some years old, and all of this, how there was an impact in symbolism and meaning beyond actual chronology in that culture, in that context, to imply significance and importance and stature.
So like the longest living or the most important kind of a thing?
Exactly. And so the question is, I mean, did Methuselah live that long? I don't know. I wasn't around. Maybe he did.
Yeah.
Maybe that's not the point even.
Right.
Maybe that's one of the problems of being, thousands of years later, is what it's trying to say is that, here, I know we're not talking about Job, but this might illustrate it to those who are watching this. The book of Job is often considered the oldest book in the New Testament, or the Old Testament, excuse me. And people say, was it literal or not? I say it's absolutely literal, because everybody knows circumstances and situations where godly people of faith have encountered enormous struggle and loss and conflict, and yet did not give up in their relationship to God. So whether there was an actual guy named Job, or whether somehow Job is a compilation of other godly, faithful people, I'll move that one aside for the moment and say that at the same time, there was a contemporary Mesopotamian story about a Job figure that's almost identical. And the God figure, rather than being Yahweh, is called Marduk, which is where the cartoon character, I guess, got, the dog. Yeah, I don't know. But Marduk was the god.
Wait, you talking about Marmaduke?
Marmaduke, yeah, that's Marmaduke, Marduk, I don't know. But interesting, in the Mesopotamian Job story, the Job character, it's kind of the same thing, and he loses everything, and then he loses his family and all of that. The difference is in the Mesopotamian one, Marduk, the god, never communicates with the Job character. And in our story, in our understanding in Scripture of the book of Job, Yahweh communicates with Job.
Yeah, he waits till the very end, but he does. Yeah,
but he does, and so it seems as though the lesson in that is that, yes, do bad things happen to people who are trying to do it right? Yes. However, the difference is relationship with God, with Yahweh. God is in relationship with us, and God will and does communicate with us, as opposed to the gods being up there in some kind of capricious thing.
That's good.
And so when you look at that, you go, okay, is there a lesson in Genesis 1 through 11?
Yeah, our God talks.
Arguing, about things.
That's good. One thing I find interesting is the 2 books of the Bible that people seem to argue about the most are the first book and the last book. Both of them,
and both have a garden in them. Both have a tree of life, and both have a garden.
Right. In both cases, some people take the literal approach, and some people take more the symbolic approach.
Yeah.
And you and I have talked about Revelation, and of course, you're tying the 2 books together.
Sure.
Both of them aren't the present tense. Both of them have to do with something way earlier or way later.
Right.
And both seem to move into symbolism.
Yeah.
And yet if you, the most contentious people are the ones maybe who have a hyper literal approach.
Mhm.
That each of these things, the locusts are clearly helicopters, or the stars falling from the sky are clearly nuclear missiles.
Or in the case of Genesis, that nothing existed before 7,000 years ago.
Yeah.
And at the same time, my dad came to faith as an adult. He was an aerospace engineer, and he believed he absolutely believed that God created the earth out of chaos, out of nothing, and out of chaos, God created, everything we have. But he used to comment to me, the old earth versus new earth argument. I grew up in a conservative Missouri Synod Lutheran church background, which now has moved away from this. But back when I was a kid, it was King James and it was young earth, and they, in the last 60 years, they have moved away and realized some things aren't worth arguing about. So they have other translations they use, and both a young earth and old earth creation perspective is completely accepted within that, and within most modern.
Yeah, you still got the diehards who are hanging on with white knuckle grips.
Yeah, exactly. And my dad's comment was Alpha Centauri is the closest star, but if the Earth was only 7,000 years old, God created it all, and He took the light from Alpha Centauri and pulled it about 87% of the way to the Earth, and then stopped just to fool us.
Right.
And that was my dad's point, was that doesn't sound to me like an intelligent creator that would do that. Why? I mean, why is that contrary to biblical?
Yeah, in our effort to protect biblical authority, we start sounding
and our
like
understanding of what biblical authority means, which is it's always literal, even if it is a genre that
Okay.